In this business, we know that there are no guarantees that the life you have today will still be there tomorrow. Rose Marie Rossetti knows that only too well. She has become a strong advocate for disability insurance. She is here today to share with you what it's like from the client's side of the claim. Please join me in welcoming Rose Marie Rossetti.
I fell into the insurance industry by accident. The accident happened June 13th, 1998. It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon. My husband Mark and I were celebrating our 3rd wedding anniversary, and we went for a bicycle ride on a trail. While we were riding, Mark heard a sound like a gunshot. He slowed down behind me to look around while I continued on the trail. What he saw was an 80-foot tall tree falling to the ground. He shouted to me, "Look over there, something's falling." Then I heard the words of caution behind me, "Stop!" I was hit by a 7,000-pound tree instantly, entangled by the live power lines, and instantly paralyzed from the waist down. Obviously, by my presence on this stage today, I lived through a traumatic experience. Mark helped save my life by calling for help. A helicopter took me to the hospital where surgeons performed 4.5 hours of emergency spinal cord injury surgery. Life changed in an instant for me. When I awoke from my surgery, I was suddenly faced with the terrifying reality that for the rest of my life, I would be paralyzed. Life for me would have a very different set of consequences had it not been for my disability income insurance. DI was a major ray of light at the end of that dark and gloomy tunnel. It provided an immediate and stable source of income. My first benefit check came within a few months after my injury. This income allowed me to focus on my recovery and not worry where my next paycheck was going to be coming from. My story about the importance of DI just might give you a different perspective than you've ever had before. After being in the hospital 6 weeks, the day finally arrived when Mark drove me home. We pulled the car into the garage. That's when I saw my demolished bicycle for the first time. The frame was collapsed. The front wheel was folded in half from the impact of that 80-foot tall falling tree. When my eyes spotted my bicycle helmet, I saw how severely it was cracked. I realized that if I hadn't been wearing that helmet, my head would have been crushed. I was lucky I didn't have a brain injury. Heck, I was lucky to be alive. That helmet was as valuable to me in saving my life as my DI insurance policy was in preserving my financial stability. As Mark helped me get out of the car, my first obstacle was getting into my home. There are 3 steps at my front door. My family and my neighbors, they had built a temporary steep ramp at the front door so that Mark could help push me into our home. Now for me, going down this ramp by myself was like being on the luge in the Winter Olympics. Coming home was a very rude awakening for me. I actually was too weak to even roll on the carpet in our home. Mark had to push me around the house. At the time of my injury, I operated 2 businesses. I had 2 home businesses as a speaker and a trainer and a writer and a consultant, and also a publishing company. Now, since I can't get into the basement in a wheelchair where my publishing company is housed, I had to totally dissolve the publishing company and sacrifice all income earned from it. We currently live in a 2-story home. It limits my independence. You see, 50% of my home is inaccessible. My access to my own home is limited because the sinks and the cooktops, they're too high. There's also new knee space underneath them so that I can gain access. The microwave and the freezer and the cabinets are way out of my reach. Are you starting to get the picture? Just imagine if you can, what life would be like for you living in your home from a wheelchair. When I left the hospital, I couldn't move any muscle from the waist down. My doctor had told me that there was a 2-year window of opportunity in order for me to maximize any functional recovery. What would you do if a doctor told you that you had 2 years in order to make your speediest recovery? Wouldn't you suddenly quit your job and give up all your business, foregoing all income, in order to get back your life? For me, I stopped all my business. My income ceased. We had been a 2-income family. My husband, Mark, his business suffered because he was in sales. He spent so much time at home taking care of me. Now, with only his income, we were really short on funds. I had to hire a personal care attendant for a whole year to take care of me so Mark could go to work. She helped get me out of bed, to take a shower, to get dressed. And she had to take me to therapy, physical and occupational therapy, 3 days a week for 2 years. That first year, I paid her the equivalent of 3 months of my annual income. The money that was available to me is a result of my monthly disability income benefit check. There were many expenses related to my disability, including that helicopter ride life flight, the hospital bills, the doctors, the pharmacy bills, the wheelchair, and the 2 years of physical and occupational therapy. And then at home, the electric porch lift and all the remodeling to the front entrance of our home. That cost about 4 months of my previous income. I needed to learn how to drive a car with hand controls, so I bought a minivan and I had it modified with a ramp and the hand controls. Now, these modifications, they cost money. The cost to me was about 50% of the cost of buying the minivan. Many of these expenses were covered by my health insurance as well as vocational rehabilitation funding, but there were a lot of other expenses not covered by any of my insurances. So where'd the money come from? I bet you can guess it. It came from my DI benefit check. You know, that's the reality of having a disability. Your life suddenly changes. Your income stops. Your relationships with other people are totally all affected. The income from other people in the family is also affected. And expenses in your life, like your home mortgage, your car payments, buying groceries and gasoline, paying your taxes and your insurance premiums, paying the medical bills, the deductibles, the prescriptions, the utility bills, they all keep on coming. I was very fortunate to have a DI policy in place at the time of my injury. The policy was a benefit to me when I was on the faculty at The Ohio State University, where I taught for 11 years. My DI policy was with the State Teachers Retirement System of Ohio. You see, I had left the university to start my speaking business 1.5 years before my injury. Thankfully, my DI policy followed me for 2 years while I was starting my new business. Now, I had a quote at the time I started my business to purchase an individual DI policy because I knew my group plan was going to expire after the 2nd year. I asked my husband, Mark, I said, Mark, share with me what the value of my policy was from your perspective. He said that it took the stress off of him in order to not have to be the sole wage earner. He didn't have to worry about income decline when his sales plummeted. The security that he had of my DI check coming in enabled him to actually start an internet marketing business at home just a few years after my injury. This allowed him to be at home more with me. Mark is very dedicated and has been throughout this entire 11 years. He's provided his love, his encouragement, and his support. We both had to work very hard to rebuild our marriage, to rebuild our business, to rebuild our entire lives. The challenges that we faced seemed insurmountable. We were so preoccupied with the trauma, the loss of our spirits, the heaviness of the whole ordeal. Hopefully, some of this information and some of this insight may be of significant value to all of you today, and I hope for many years to come. It's my strong belief that DI is the most undersold product in the entire insurance industry. Think about DI from my perspective and realize the disservice that you might be doing by not selling more policies. I believe it's your responsibility and your obligation to sell more DI policies. Maybe, just maybe, my words today and presence on the stage have inspired you to sell DI with more conviction than you've had in the past. I look at myself and I see myself as an ordinary person. I just happen to live an active life with inactive feet. Through my recovery process, I've learned many life lessons that I share through my presentations and my writing in order to make a positive, significant difference in the lives of other people. I'd like to share with you our newest project. Mark and I are doing something rather extraordinary. Do you remember what I told you about my current home and how inaccessible it is to me? I'm very excited today to announce something to you. Things are about to change for Mark and I in a very big way. We're building a new home. This home is going to start construction very soon in Columbus, Ohio. Our home is going to be a national demonstration home. We call it the Universal Design Living Laboratory. Universal design may be a new term for you. It's human-centered design. It accommodates all people of all sizes, of all ages, and all abilities. The home is going to be open to the public for tours for about a month before Mark and I move in. All the ticket proceeds are going to go towards spinal cord injury research. It will also be a very green home. We have over 100 international, national, as well as local corporations contributing to this project. Mark and I have been able to really spin the life-changing adversity that we've had into an incredible opportunity to serve as a catalyst for change in the building industry. We want to show people how they can build, design, not only universal design, but green and sustainable homes in order to make life easier for people. Without DI to sustain our finances, Mark and I would never have been able to take on such a monumental project. As I look back on my life, it's changed a lot since that fateful day on that bicycle ride. If I didn't have DI, my life would have taken a whole nother direction. a less secure direction. My DI benefit check made a significant positive difference in my recovery. The work you all do is important. By selling DI, you're protecting individuals as well as their families from financial ruin. DI is critically important, a very powerful product. I'm sitting before you here on stage, and my very presence in front of you today on this platform should be living proof of the power of the investment in disability income insurance. My life was positively impacted by a DI policy that paid off a huge return for that investment. I have something to show you. I want to show you the power of this investment. I am standing here today as a sign of appreciation from the millions of people who've had claims on their DI policies. Thank you for helping me get back on my feet again. Thank you. Thank you.